Hey guys, so the last starter deck that I want to do a video on, talking a little bit about the deck itself, and then going into playing a game, talking about the strategies of this deck, is this, it is kind of a Freljord mix hybrid deck, and most people would probably describe it as mid-range to control, but it has a bunch of different things that it does, but they actually do kind of work pretty well together, unlike the other two decks that kind of just go off in two directions. So I'll play this deck, show you guys a little bit about what the strategy is with this deck, and then I'll talk about some upgrade paths. So this deck has 4 different champions and only one of each. So the big issue with this deck is consistency. You'll likely not get the tools that you really want to, so the deck just isn't very consistent. It plays different every time. We're going to simply get rid of anything that's a high cost. We want to try to get to late game, so in order to get to late game, we need some answers in the early game. Braum is really what you're going to try to get, but again, the consistency's low. There's only one Braum in a deck of 44 cards. We're going to drop out a 1 cast really quick, and if he doesn't play anything, then we'll slap him for 2 damage. In this case, he's playing a Poro that he's going to attack me with anyways, but I'm going to see if he doesn't actually attack me, so I'm just simply going to pass with it. I can always summon a Starlight Seer if he doesn't end up killing it. That Starlight Seer would allow me to have a little bit of a better position for dealing with it later. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get the Seer out. And with the Seer, we do now have Challenger that we can take out something bigger if we need to. But most likely, you will just use Challenger to take me out. Because a 1-1 trading into a 2-1 is definitely favorable for the 1-1. And that's exactly what he does. I can't block the 1-2, so I will take that damage. That being said, turn 3 we will be getting out a Braum, and Braum is great for control decks, and remember that because one of the upgrade paths is going to be using a lot of Braums. So we're currently on offense, which means we get to attack with both of these, and we get to use Braum to eat 3 damage and start getting him closer to leveling up. So we're going to take both of these and we're going to attack, but we're going to grab the 3-3 and have Braum, or have Braum attack him. Braum will take 3 damage here, and we will be able to wipe the rest of the board, which will be kind of nice. And then Braum is 3 out of 10 for upgrading. We're going to end the round and use Braum to stall out this game as long as possible. Well, there's also that small chance that we level him up. If you level up Braum, then he's a really big wall that also just gives you some value. With level 4, we will probably want to go with something that gives us a lot of value. I don't really like just this. I would rather go for a Mighty Poro and an Omen Hawk at the same time, because getting just drawing a unit isn't really going to be that valuable. We're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and simply block once again. Braum will be 3 out of 10, unless he gives him bonus damage here, which he might. Okay, so he's going to give bonus damage to this one, which will clear up the board on my side, with the exception of Braum. So Braum is now going to be at 6 out of 10. If he takes 4 damage here, then he's going to be in a really good spot. We'll bring out an Omen Hawk just to get a little bit extra value, and we're going to let him go to his turn. End round. Braum goes back to 5. And really, upgrading Braum isn't going to be a necessity in this deck. It's just going to be something that's kind of nice if it does end up happening. This is a burst, so we can use this to save Braum in case he ends up buffing up his Draven a little too much. So we're going to hold on to that 1. But we can play 1 creature if we want to. And I think we honestly want to, because we can always grab whatever we don't want blocking with Braum. So in this case, we're going to send everyone in. We'll have Braum get blocked by Draven. And if he buffs up Draven, then we can easily just buff up Braum a little bit. Right here, if we want to, we could also buff this up so we could just keep it on the board. I'm not too worried about keeping a 1-1 though. Or I guess it would be a 2-1 after I buffed it. And 1 more block and Braum will be leveled up, which is pretty nice. We're going to simply pass, move over 1 of our mana over to spell mana. Pass once again. And we're simply just going to hang out. At this point, he's going to play a couple things. We have the ability to also play something if we would like. Garen is very strong, so I'm actually going to bring out Garen to block anything that he needs to do. If he strikes twice, then he is going to upgrade, allowing me to rally. Garen's a really good mid-range option, right at the edge of mid-range, so I really do like Garen. In this case, though, we're going to... Yeah, so that is going to be a stun onto a Garen. That's okay. He hasn't attacked yet, and I don't really want to do anything to try to defend Garen at the moment. So we are simply going to continue passing, and there we go. There's a good attack for us. He doesn't have any cards in hand, so I know he doesn't have any shenanigans to buff up him, so I will use Braum to block right there. And I just want to clear up his board a little bit. So in this case, we're going to go right there. This should upgrade my Braum and allow me to be in a pretty good position to start building up a board. Braum is really, really good for draft modes, as well as he's really good in control decks, because he can stall out games for a long time. And we're going to simply pass and get out of his attack round. And then our Garen will be able to attack, which will be really, really good, because Garen also has regeneration, so if you're attacking with those, it's going to be really hard to deal with. Lawrence is pretty buffed right here, and we also have the Wild Claw. So it's kind of however we want to do this. I mean, I think ultimately we're going to get out a Wild Claw, and then we're going to attack with everything and see what happens. Yeah, so all we have to do here... Oh, what did he cast? Deal 1 to all enemy units. Okay, so I lose my 3-1. And the rest should be okay. Braum just took some damage, so that actually gives me another unit to attack with. We are going to grab the 5-2, send that at Braum, and we also want to make sure everything else should be safe, except for the Mighty Poro, but that's okay if a Mighty Poro dies. Sorry, Mighty Poros, but it's true. So Garen's really, really good at dealing with a lot of units, because you can block things, regen your life, and then immediately go for something else as well. And there's another Poro. And that's one strike for Garen. And then we'll be able to regen the Braum and the Garen. So we're going to end the round here, move over that last mana so we can pretty much free cast whatever spells we have in this deck. And now we just kind of shoot to trying to reach the Tryndamere level so we can bring out Tryndamere on a turn. And Tryndamere is very, very strong. And he's really hard to deal with. So Tryndamere is your finisher for this deck. He's not the best finisher for these types of decks, but he is a really good finisher. So it's going to be rather solid to be able to... We're just going to swing out with all of these, and we will grab the 5-2 with Braum once again. And then we can attack, but we want to see who he blocks with, and then we can buff things if we need to. So for example, right here, we can just close out this game by buffing this. And we can also give one ally +1, so we'll probably just give it over here. And that is going to be game. So we'll be doing 9 damage here, which will actually just finish the game, and then 11 damage here, which would also finish the game. So that is it. Garen does level up here, and you gain rally, so you can start attacking on the other turn. So I do want to share a little bit of some budget upgrades that you can do to make this deck a little bit better. But then I also want to share, if you like the playstyle of kind of just having high value creatures control the board, using Braum to get value, there are actually some really, really powerful, a lot of the streamers are calling them top tier decks right now, that utilize Braum into a more control aspect. So let's take a peek at this deck, see what cards are in this, and then we can talk a little bit about upgrades. First thing is, this deck runs a lot of really odd cards that are kind of irrelevant. We do like early cards to get some value. So I do like this, for example, to get Challenger, so you can do favorable trades. And then for some other ones, Tough is also nice because it's going to take 3 damage to kill this, and a bunch of little 1/1s, it can take all of those without taking damage. So I really like those. But then when you reach 3, what we would want is we'd want 3 Braums. Really, no matter how you want to play either mid-range or you want to play this control, you're going to want those 3 Braums. If you're going to go for the more mid-range route, then I would possibly also look into maybe instead of Braum going with Ashe and Garen, And we don't really need the Lux because this deck doesn't really run enough spells to get value out of it. So we would probably remove the Lux, add an extra Garen, possibly two, and we would want to go with either Brahms or Ashes. If you want to know what Ash does, let me do show unowned, and we will pull up just champion, and here we go. This is Ash. So what Ash does is when you attack, you frostbite the strongest enemy. Frostbite makes it to where their attack goes to 0. Then if you frostbite 5 enemies, you level up and create a crystal arrow the next round, which means you'll level up. When you level up, when you attack, you frostbite the strongest enemy, and enemies with power of 0 can't block, meaning that something that just got frostbitten, cannot block. And you're 6/4, and it's only a forecast. But crystal arrow, on the other hand, is what you'll pick up the turn after you get Ash leveled. And this is an amazing ability. It frostbites one enemy, and then it frostbites an enemy with 3 or less health, and then you also draw a card. All for 2. So it's a really powerful tool. And then remember, you're going to attack, and you're also going to frostbite the strongest enemy, meaning whatever's left. So the turn after you bring Ash out, you're going to essentially frostbite 3 things, and then attack for 6 damage. So she's a really powerful tool for mid-range decks, and then you can also combine her with Garen, so if you're not frostbiting things, Garen can regen whatever you need to deal with. So those are some options that you can do to upgrade, but what I would personally recommend is going the control route. The control route is, let me pull up the deck really quick. So this is Tides of Time's version of this deck. So what he runs is 3 Brahms, 2 Anivias, and Anivia is his way of finishing out the game. And Anivia is actually a really solid way to finish out the game because you do 1 damage to all enemies, and then when you hit 10 mana, then you're going to be doing 2 damage to all enemies every attack. You can pull whoever you want to, so your Anivia stays alive longer, and you're also going to be filling up your deck with answers to a variety of problems. So, for example, you have pluses here, you have pluses here, so you're building up a bunch of extra value. You can recall allies to get extra value. You've got answers to small creatures. Enlighten just buffs them up because remember, you're going to try to make it to the end of this game. You have more draw power. You have more ability to grab something with 5 or more power. Now, the way that this deck works is you're not going to have a lot of things with 5 or more power. So whenever you cast this, it's essentially always going to grab you a Hearthguard, or it's going to grab you a Swiftfoot. So you are going to be doing that. And then the Swiftfoot allows you to recall 3 enemies, so you can really set up a good turn. So, and then you have Deny to counter things, you have Avalanche to just kind of wipe the board, and you also have Will of Ionia to recall 1 unit. So the goal of this deck is essentially to reach late game where your Anivia and your where are they? The Awakeners are going to be very, very strong, and then you're going to essentially just recall all of the enemy units or blow up all of the units. And it's a really powerful deck. He is boasting a 90% win rate with this deck currently. It will be adjusted once people get better at playing these cards and playing these decks, but that is kind of the direction that I would recommend if you like this Freljord control feel. You take half Freljord, half Ionia, and just go from there. And that is the deck that I'd recommend if you like that control feel. Otherwise, if you just want light upgrades, I would focus primarily on high value cards, things that can get a lot for the amount that you spend on them. Or you can go with a full challenger deck and just start picking out the things that you want. But I wouldn't overcommit into a bunch of different champions. I would focus on just the high value that you can get. Buffing Braum is also a possibility because he does regen all of that life, and you can choose the targets you want to attack. So if you do have a couple things to permanently increase his damage, he can be pretty scary. And that's part of what this control deck does from Tides of Time is you're going to Inspiring Mentor and try to give it to your Braum. You're going to Omen Hawk and hope that it goes to Braum. And then you can also do, I thought he had one more of those, but I guess, and then the Hearthguard, which will also buff Braum. So the goal here is to have really strong Braums that'll get you to have these Anivias that'll close out the game by wiping the enemy's board very quickly and then allowing you to do that extra damage after you've been leveled up. And that's essentially that deck. If you guys like that, I'm going to start doing videos on some of these actual high win rate boasted decks, talk about their playstyle, what people recommend on these, and kind of go from there. If you guys are excited or have been having fun on this game and you're interested in something like that, then just let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, feel free to check out my other videos.